Hello, and welcome to Buddha Zen Wisdom. I'm so glad you decided to join us today, and I hope we can help guide you to a greater understanding of your health. Today, I want to talk about something that often gets overlooked but is so important, especially as we get older: cold sensitivity and how it could be a warning sign for brain vascular issues. Now, don't go worrying too much, but let's dive into this important subject. After all, knowledge is power, and with a little understanding, we can take better care of ourselves and prevent future problems. So, settle in, and let's explore this together. Now, cold sensitivity is something that many middle-aged and elderly folks like us begin to notice more as we get older. It's one of those things that, at first, might seem pretty harmless, right? But as you get into the later years of life, sometimes those little things, like feeling unusually cold, can be a signal from our bodies that something's not quite right. Let me tell you a story that might help illustrate just how important this can be. Take, for example, a lovely lady named Mrs. Taylor. Mrs. Taylor is 65 years old, just a bit older than you or me. Now, for the past few winters, she's noticed a significant sensitivity to the cold. You know how it is: you bundle up in your warmest clothes, layers upon layers, and you still feel that chill in your bones. Well, that was Mrs. Taylor's experience. Even though she was wearing her thickest woolen socks, thermal leggings, and a cozy sweater, her legs just wouldn't warm up. They felt like they had been pulled straight from an icebox, no matter what she did. But it didn't stop there. No, this year, the problem became worse. She was waking up in the middle of the night feeling cold all over, despite being in bed under the warmest blankets. Mrs. Taylor's troubles weren't over yet. About 2 weeks before she finally decided to visit the doctor, something else started to happen. Every time she went out into the chilly weather to run errands, she noticed that her calves started aching. This wasn't just a little discomfort either. The pain was sharp and intense. She'd only walk a short distance before needing to stop and rest. And the worst part? Even a simple 30-meter walk became almost unbearable. This started affecting her daily life in a big way. She couldn't do the things she loved. And that's when her family encouraged her to go see a doctor. So, Mrs. Taylor, with a bit of support from her family, went to the doctor, and they did an angiogram on her lower legs to investigate what was going on. The results were a bit alarming. The doctor found that her right femoral artery was blocked, and her dorsal artery had partial blockages with varying degrees of narrowing. What Mrs. Taylor was experiencing was peripheral artery disease, or PAD for short. This condition happens when the arteries that supply blood to the limbs become narrowed or blocked, restricting blood flow. The doctor explained to her that PAD doesn't always show noticeable symptoms right away. In fact, it often starts off with something mild, like a cold sensation or maybe a little tingling. But as the condition progresses, it can cause more significant issues, like intermittent claudication, which is a fancy term for pain in the legs due to poor blood circulation. In Mrs. Taylor's case, it was clear that her cold legs weren't just a nuisance, they were a sign of something more serious. The doctor told her that anyone who notices their lower legs staying cold even with lots of layers of clothing should definitely get checked for arterial blockages. The warning was clear: don't ignore these signs. Now, this brings me to a broader point. Wintertime, particularly, is a high-risk season for all sorts of vascular issues, including those related to the brain. When temperatures drop significantly, or when there's a sharp fluctuation between the cold and warmth, it triggers something in our bodies. The sympathetic nervous system, the part of our system that responds to stress and changes, becomes activated. In response to the cold, blood vessels constrict, which raises arterial pressure. This, in turn, can potentially trigger brain-related conditions, such as strokes or even brain hemorrhages. You see, clinical studies show that the cold months, November through February, see a marked increase in people seeking medical help for heart and brain-related issues. It's something we all need to be aware of. Now, when we think of warning signs for brain vascular problems, most of us might immediately think of things like dizziness, headaches, shortness of breath, or perhaps a drooping face. These are definitely key signs to look out for. But what most people don't realize is that there are more subtle signs, like cold sensitivity, that can also indicate something serious happening in your brain's blood vessels. This is why we need to be mindful of our bodies and take these signals seriously. Cold sensitivity may seem like just a little discomfort, but it could be the body's way of letting us know that something's wrong with our blood circulation, which could eventually affect the brain. Let me now talk about the 4 types of cold sensitivity that could be linked to brain vascular issues. These are important to recognize, and you might even identify with some of these yourself. 1. Cold extremities with tingling sensation. In the colder months, it's perfectly normal for your hands and feet to feel cold, and maybe even a little bit tingly. It's just your body's way of trying to preserve warmth, and it's a natural response to chilly weather. But here's the thing, this cold feeling and tingling sensation should only last for a short time, right? Once you come indoors or warm up, your circulation should improve, and the cold sensation should fade. However, if this feeling persists for a long time, it could be a warning sign that your circulation is poor. It could be an early indication of carotid artery disease, which affects the blood flow to the brain and can cause ongoing numbness in the extremities. If you're noticing coldness that just doesn't go away, it's a good idea to have your arteries checked. 2. Weakness in the limbs and cold sensitivity. Now, let's talk about weakness. You know how every winter, when it gets especially cold, we might feel a little stiffer or more sluggish than usual. It's common to experience some resistance to going outside in the cold because of that extra sensitivity to the chill. But for some people, this cold sensitivity goes beyond just feeling stiff. It can lead to real weakness in the limbs. If you feel like your body is almost frozen, or if you feel weaker after walking just a short distance, this could be related to constricted blood vessels. Cold weather can slow down circulation, making it harder for blood to reach your brain and limbs. And when that happens, you may start to notice weakness or difficulty in movement. If you're noticing this, it could be a sign of peripheral artery disease, an early sign of restricted blood flow. 3. Head sensitivity to cold, accompanied by headaches. Now, here's an interesting one. Some people experience a cold sensation on their heads, even when they are indoors or wearing a warm hat. This can be especially uncomfortable, and often, it's accompanied by headaches or dizziness. This could be a sign that the blood vessels in the brain are having trouble. Just like how an irrigation canal can get blocked and stop water from reaching the crops, when the blood vessels in your brain become blocked or narrowed, blood flow is reduced. This reduction in blood flow can lead to those pesky headaches and even dizziness. So, if you're feeling cold in your head, along with those symptoms, it's definitely worth paying attention to. 4. Frequent sudden temperature shifts and sweating. Lastly, some people experience sudden temperature changes and even sweating, all while feeling cold. This can be particularly disconcerting because it may indicate a disruption in the autonomic nervous system, which controls things like your heart rate and temperature regulation. When your body is exposed to cold, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in to constrict blood vessels and preserve heat. But if there's an imbalance in how this system works, it can lead to erratic temperature shifts and even sweating. This could be linked to high blood pressure, which can disrupt the body's ability to regulate itself. It's something to keep an eye on, especially if you experience these symptoms frequently. How to help your brain vessels handle the winter cold. Now that we know what to look out for, let's talk about how we can take care of ourselves, especially during the cold winter months, to keep our blood vessels and our brains healthy. 1. Stay warm. The first thing you want to do is make sure you stay warm. Before heading outside, always check the weather forecast and dress appropriately for the temperature. Layer up and make sure to wear accessories like scarves, hats, and gloves. Don't leave any part of your body exposed to the cold if you can help it. 2. Stay hydrated. It's just as important to stay hydrated during the winter as it is in the summer. When the air is dry and cold, it's easy to forget about drinking enough water. But staying hydrated helps maintain good circulation and ensures that your body's internal temperature stays balanced. 3. Take it easy in the morning. Winter mornings can be tough on the body, especially when the cold makes everything feel more rigid. When you wake up in the morning, don't rush out of bed. Take a few minutes to gently stretch your limbs and get your blood flowing before you stand up. This can help your body adjust to the temperature change without shocking your system. 4. Manage your emotions. Emotional stress can activate the sympathetic nervous system, which can cause blood vessels to constrict. So, during the winter, try to manage your stress levels. Avoiding intense emotional reactions and taking time to relax can help keep your blood pressure stable. Remember, cold sensitivity is not just a minor discomfort. It can be a signal from your body that something's wrong with your circulation. If you're noticing persistent or worsening symptoms, don't ignore them. It's important to consult with a healthcare provider to address any underlying health concerns. And there you have it, my friends. A little bit of wisdom to help you stay safe and healthy through the cold months ahead. Take care of yourself, and if you notice any of these warning signs, don't hesitate to get checked out. Your health is too precious to ignore. Until next time, stay warm and take good care.